In this tutorial, we're going to cover installing and configuring the Signage Player and the Signage Studio to install and operate off your own private server. So right now I have Windows 7 installed and I want to go ahead and install the Signage Player and the Signage Studio on my Windows 7 machine. Now the first thing you need to make sure is that you can access your Windows 2008 media server. So what you want to do is you want to go ahead and try and ping that server and see if it's accessible. So let's go ahead and open the command terminal. And if you recall, when you installed the media server, you configured it with 3 interfaces or 3 IP addresses, and each IP address has a domain name and a prefix to that domain name. So what we want to do is we want to go ahead and ping the main interface or the first domain name that we've configured, and in most cases it's going to be the master and then your domain name that you've configured. And you can see right now that Windows 7 tried to ping this host, which is master.mydomain123.tmp, and we got an error since the Windows operating system was not able to resolve this name into an IP address. Now, if you use a media server online and your domain name are actually addressable, you do have DNS entries for all 3 interfaces on a registered DNS server, then there's nothing special you need to do. Everything will resolve just fine. But since we're using our media server locally within our own network, we need to edit the host file and add all 3 interfaces. So the first thing I'll do is I'll go ahead and open Notepad, and I'll go ahead and open the Windows System32 drivers etc hosts. And now I can go ahead and add the 3 entries for my server, which are going to be the 67, 68, and 69, because this is how I've configured my server. And the main interface is going to be the master. The first IP is always going to be the main interface of the server. So I can go ahead and save this file. And now I'm going to go ahead and try and ping the server one more time. And you can see that now it's replying fine, because now it can successfully resolve the master.mydomain123.tmp to a real IP address of 192.168.1.67. At this point, since we can access our server via our Windows 7 box, we can go ahead and install both the Signage Studio and the Signage Player. And these will be the paths that you're going to use to download the Air. Of course, you'll also need to make sure that you install the Adobe Air runtime first. And so, of course, this will be the domain name that you're going to change with the domain name that you use for your own server setup. So let me go ahead and copy this. Go ahead and launch a browser. Paste in the address, press enter, and I can go ahead and open this Air Studio. So now the Air Studio installation is going through, and it's actually installing off my own local media server. And as you can see, as soon as the Signage Studio launches, it is asking me to provide the domain name for my media server. So let me go ahead and provide that. Click on connect, and again make sure that you're connecting to the main interface, the master. Now we need to go ahead and provide the login and the password for the studio. Now remember, this will not be the billing email and password, but rather it will be the provider username and password that you've supplied when you first installed the media server. So in my case, I went ahead and provided this information when I created or installed my media server. So I'll go ahead and click on login. So you can see now the Signage Studio is up, and I can go ahead and configure my stations and my users. I can also go to settings. I can white label the server. I can change the splash screen, the logo, the link backs. I can change the themes. All this is now configurable from this primary account that I've created when I first installed the media server. Now, one interesting thing that I wanted to show you is that if you go over here and click on the white label page, this will provide for you all the HTML code that you need, so you can create a HTML web page directly on your own web server. So anybody in your organization can now go to this web page, this HTML page, and get a direct link for installing both the Signage Player and the Signage Studio. Now if we look a little bit closer at the code, you can see that all the links are referencing your own local media server. So for example here, master.mydomain123.tmp. So you can again provide a quick installation method for customers just by providing them a link to this HTML page. Next, I want to go ahead and install a Signage Player, but instead of going directly to the path like I showed you before, this time I actually want to do the installation through this page that I'm showing you right now, through the reference page. So let me go ahead and do Control A to copy all this code. Open Notepad. I'll paste this code. And for this demonstration, I'll just go ahead and save this directly on my desktop, but obviously you'll save it on your own server. And we'll just call this demo install.html. We'll save it directly on the desktop. So here's the file we created, the demo install. Let's go ahead and launch it. And you see that now this page has all the links and all the information we need to quickly install both the studio and the player, as well as the web studio and the web login. It's all nicely organized for us. So actually let's go ahead and use this page now to install the Signage Player. You can see the installation is going very quickly because again it's all running local from within my own local media server. It's installing the Signage Player. And you can see, just like before, now for the Signage Player, again, we need to provide a path to our local media server. So go ahead and provide that. Click on Connect. And sure enough, the player is now ready to be registered. So this wraps up the quick demo on installing the Signage Player in the Signage Studio off your own media server. If you have any questions, be sure to let us know. Thank you.